There's a bullet with your name on it. I cast the power of blood. You guys are probably all sitting there wondering, what the heck is going on? And that's why we're here for Dark Week, Part 3, The True Story. This is my story, a memoir of how someone who thought they were playing the best game out there got beat by someone who's playing one that's slightly better. The story of Wolfgang and Zizo. Now, starting from the very beginning, I think it's important to know what kind of game I was playing up until now. I am a good social player. I like to talk to a lot of people. I like to make a lot of bonds, and that's how I played this game so far. And, I ended up playing a lot of sides because, believe it or not, people who are not in the know, there are sides out here and they're pretty distinct. So I'm here just to talk about all the alliances I've been in, all the moves I made, and who made them with me. Because at this point, the game I once knew is over, and there's no getting it back. That's what is kind of clear at this point. To start with, I think it's easier if I just kind of set the stage with the characters. So I'm going to be naming off every alliance I've been in and who I am working with and who those alliance members are supposed to be working with. Let's start with my earliest real alliance, which was composed of Allie, me, Dennis, and Jared. This alliance got started because me and Allie got along really well in the first day or so. She reached out to me and was very nice, and I felt like, oh, this person's like really forthcoming, so I want to work with her. And I was talking to her. I was like, who do you like? She likes Jared and Dennis. I was like, I'm down to do it. So that's how that alliance got started. As you probably know, I did campaign to get Allie out recently. At some point, we kind of learned that she was a little bit more of a wild card than we would have liked. And, for that reason, just because we couldn't really trust her to do what we needed her to do as an alliance, she was more of a liability. So the reasoning behind that was she proved to not be reliable. All the Allie stuff aside, I felt pretty good about this group, I think we all trusted each other, and that was a good feeling. Next, we have the Golden Girls, which is Elida, Zizo, Sammy, and me. This alliance kind of started unexpectedly, to be honest, because for the longest time, Elida was my number one target. She was not very talkative, but very good at comps compared to everyone else who wasn't very talkative. She didn't talk very much game to me, and to me, that was dangerous. So I was like, let's get Elida out of here. However, when we started playing in the paintball challenge, me and Elida were pretty much the only two people playing. And I kind of grew to respect that, to be honest. I was like, look, if no one else is going to have the guts to play this game that I want to play so badly, then maybe I should start working with the people who are actually playing and give them a chance to kind of grow on me. So I started talking to Elida, and we came to a deal. I think Zizo felt the same way because we had been talking for a good portion. We got along really well. And I was kind of like, Zizo, no one's playing this game. It's like so boring. And she was like, yeah, me too. So I knew we kind of had the same mindset as far as the game goes and as far as, what we respect, what we're looking for in a game. And we weren't seeing it very many places. So when I told her, when we did the paintball challenge with Elida, she was like going for it. And I don't think anyone else is working with her really. So it seems like a waste. Of course, at that point, she was on the block. And it wasn't very simple to see that plan coming forward. But we did do something about it. I think Zizo felt the same way because we had been talking for a good portion. We got along really well. And I was kind of like, Zizo, no one's playing this game. It's like so boring. And she was like, yeah, me too. So I knew we kind of had the same mindset as far as the game goes and as far as, what we respect, what we're looking for in a game. And we weren't seeing it very many places. So when I told her, when we did the paintball challenge with Elida, she was like going for it. And I don't think anyone else is working with her really. So it seems like a waste. Of course, at that point, she was on the block. And it wasn't very simple to see that plan coming forward. But we did do something about it. I reached out to Alaya. I was like, look, I respect your game. We love me and Zizo. We're like totally down with your game style, and we want you to be a part of it. And she was like, yeah, cool. I'm on the block. And I'm like, let's get you off. So me, Zizo, and Elida shared scores. We shared. I forget exactly what the challenge was, but it was something about. Oh yeah, the 2048 game where you had to get the lowest score. And Zizo is a competitor, like I said before. So she didn't want to have too low of a score. So instead, she got the highest score she could without going over Elida's, and we communicated those scores just to make sure Elida got the veto, so we didn't have to make any big moves, make big targets on ourselves to get her up. And as soon as that happened, we're like, cool, you're off the block. Who do you want to work with? And it was Sammy. So Sammy came in. We all like Sammy. Who doesn't like Sammy? That's funny to say for like the biggest target this week, but anyway, yeah. So Elida, Sammy, Zizo, and I, and we've been working together ever since that 2048 challenge. Finally, we have a new alliance, which kind of ties in with a separate alliance. So I'll kind of talk on that right now. So me and Ferg get along pretty well. I mean, he's a nice guy. I wake up early, so he's there when I wake up because he's all in Europe and whatever. That's kind of how me and Dennis talk too. It's just because of Europe. But me and Ferg have been talking for a long time, but nothing really official. Nothing really like came. I was just kind of like, I like this guy. And then BC comes along, and he starts talking to all sorts of people about starting a new alliance because I don't think he was in one at the time. He starts talking about Ferg, Dennis, Zizo, and him. Is someone missing from that group that's important to me? The answer is me. So at that point, I was kind of like, well, I don't like this very much. But the good news was that BC had been talking and talking and talking about this alliance for such a long time, but not actually like going through with it. I think he was still thinking like maybe it's too early to add this many people. Maybe we need to talk it out. But you talk for too long, and inaction becomes an action. So the action was I talked to Zizo, and I was like, "Look, why don't we just cut out the middleman and take Ferg with us so we can like have a cool thing with him?" And she was like, "Yeah, I love Ferg. Let's do it." So now we have the Supreme Court, which is an alliance of me, Zizo, and Ferg, which just started right before the double. This was also about the time I decided I want BC out of the game. So the double was actually great for me because when Sammy won, I was able to be like, hey, you want to make a big move? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, BC. And it happened. And now BC's gone, but Ferg is back from being eliminated. So that means that that alliance is still up in the chats at least. I'm not really sure how active it is. It doesn't seem to have a name that I know of so far. But there is an alliance with Dennis, Ferg, and Zizo at the very least, whether or not it's actually anything. Oh, I almost forgot. There is another alliance called Yeah that Tarun started. I think most people know about it. It's pretty much like he just took 10 people and was like, will you guys be on my team? And like didn't talk in the alliance. So I was like, okay, I guess we're in here. And all of us were like, who started this? Remember? Now that we've set the stage with all the big players of the week, let's talk about what actually happened during Dark Week to make Wolfgang's greatest ally his greatest enemy. So, as most of you know by now, the winner of HOH was Dennis. And once we knew that, I was feeling pretty good. At the moment of HOH being revealed, though, it wasn't public knowledge per se, just widely known. He had told Lynn, Jaden, me, Jared, and Zizo. And that's about half the house. So it kind of was expected that would get away. But Dennis told me himself that he's not a very good liar. So he didn't want to try and trick people or anything like that. And as most of us know, the consensus after double elimination week was Sammy was such a big target to a lot of people. So it wasn't really surprising when Dennis had decided that Sammy and Elida were kind of the targets this week because they had been known to be close. And he told this information to the half of the house that he told he was HOH. So part and parcel. So of course, since he told Zizo and me start talking because she's like, he wants to vote out Sammy. I don't know. What about our alliance? And I'm like, yeah, it's a tough one because Sammy and Elida are in our alliance and we do want to work with them. The problem is how much do we want to fight this? Because we both want to stay on Dennis's good side as well. So we kind of also start talking to Ferg about who's in our other alliance, and we ask about, oh, how do you feel about this nomination? The consensus the three of us came to was, look, we prefer it not happen, but we're also not going to like put up a huge fight about it. And at that point, we kind of decided that Sammy and Elida were shields and expendable at that moment. Just, get us through another week. But then Zizo has a third idea, which could save our allies and help them out a bit. And that idea was to use her takeover power, which you probably all already know by now as well. So her takeover power is being used to keep Sammy and Elida off the block this week. Another benefit that Zizo has for using this power is she is safe no matter what, which I think is a big relief to her. At least I think it was. So at this point, Zizo, wanting to stay on Dennis's good side, goes to Dennis and is kind of like, oh, well, do you care if I take over? I know that you said you like don't want that much responsibility and it's hard to be HOH. And of course, I think people are always going to say that, like, oh, it's so hard to be HOH. I don't want the power. But I think anyone with critical thinking skills knows that, like, if you're HOH, you don't really want to give it up. But when Zizo came to him and said, hey, I have this power, can I use it? It doesn't really feel like a question. It feels like more like, hey, I'm going to use this. I'm just letting you know. So it's a courtesy. It's trying to build a bridge instead of burn one, even though you're lighting some fire. Do you know what I mean? So Zizo has this new plan that doesn't include Sammy and Elida. She wants to put Hannah and Joey in the block. To be honest, it's not a very controversial choice. Joey is kind of in the doghouse for doing Dark Week. He was on the block maybe twice for the double. I don't really remember too well who's on the block if they don't go home. But it seems like Joey was probably an easy target in everyone's mind. So we started talking and being like, should we tell Sammy and Elida what's going on? Aren't they going to get sketched out if like you use a power and don't tell them why? And I think at this point the gears kind of really start turning in Zizo's head, where we're kind of in the same position, where we're kind of like, oh, I want to protect my alliance without telling my other alliance what's going on. So I don't know what to do quite yet. But in our conversation, me and Zizo had kind of come to the conclusion like, let's tell Sammy and Elida because it will strengthen our bonds, and that's always a good thing. Here's where I made my fatal mistake. I'd taken that as a go ahead to talk to Sammy and be like, hey, Sammy, you know what? Zizo's using her power to save you guys from the block because Dennis was HOH. So that's why he's using that, or that's why she's using that power. And I think Zizo got nervous because I told Sammy before she could, even though I thought we were both going to anyway. So Sammy goes to Zizo and says, hey, is that true? Is it true that you're saving me and Dennis was going to put me on the block? And Zizo's like, wait, what? Who told you that? And Sammy's like, oh, Wolfgang told me. And I guess in Zizo's brain, that was a step too far. I don't know. I thought we were playing that game together. So now Zizo goes to Jared. Because I guess Zizo and Jared have been working very closely together. At least that's the impression I get. Because when I go back to talk to Jared after I'm put on the block suddenly and being like, hey, what's going on? Stonewalls me. Stonewalls me so hard. And Jared's someone I've been talking to like every day for like a really long time. Someone that I have been working really close to and feel like really good about personally. So it was really shocking to have it all twist so fast. So that leads me to believe Zizo has been working on Jared just as much as I have, if not more. Now it's kind of like a subdued chaos because I'm wondering, oh, I got put on the block. Well, what exactly happened? Because remember, when I told Sammy that, I thought I had the green light. Apparently, I didn't because I think Zizo wanted to keep Sammy and Elida in the dark a little bit more than I wanted to. My philosophy is more open information than hers, probably, where she feels like she wants a really like tight control over the flow. But regardless, no one's really telling me anything, and I don't have a lot of information to go off of, so I can only assume that Zizo had been talking to Jared and or Dennis, just because those are the only two people that would be mad that I was working with the other two people. It's really easy and really smart, actually, what she did, because we were essentially playing the same game. So all she had to do was project her game onto me, and it's very easy when you know all the details to project it, because you were there the whole time. Basically, from the people that I've talked to that are sympathetic to me right now, it's mostly because Zizo hasn't told anyone the whole story quite yet. Because the problem is, we were playing the game together, side by side. So anything that she says about why she would put me up would be incriminating to her as well. So I understand why she doesn't want to tell anyone. And it's also very easy because it feels like to go with the house is the safest bet right now. And there's no reason to not go against it. Survive another week. Bye bye, Wolfgang. That being said, if the power went the way I think it will go, uh, going with the house isn't the only option. Now you can literally vote the house if that suits you more. As I said before, the game I was playing up until now, it's over. There's no bringing it back. There's no playing, both sides. There's no being a social god. None of that's an option for me anymore. But there are a few options for all of you that include me. I assume this video is going to make a few people pretty mad, which might be useful if you need someone who's a bigger target than you, Sammy or Dennis. Maybe at this point you'll just think of me as someone who cannot possibly win at the end, and I become a pawn star. Maybe that will give relief to Joey and Hannah. Maybe I'm that one extra vote you needed to turn this whole game around, and I have no reason not to do it with you. Up until this point, I thought of Zizo as my closest ally. And so I feel like there's probably a lot of you out there who feel the same way. Or at least, a top two or a top three in your rankings. But if any of this information is as new to you as I think it might be, maybe it's time to reconsider those rankings and think a little bit about whether you're expendable or really her top. That's a lesson I had to learn the hard way. There's so many elements and like small details of this story and of the whole game in general that I can't really fit in this whole video. But, at this point, like I said, I don't really have a game. So I might as well tell you all about the one I used to have. So I'm going to be in one of the VC channels on your left here. And if you have any questions about the game, how people view you, or anything like that, I mean, I'm an open book at this point. So you ask me anything, and I'll tell you. Trust me, there's a lot of juicy gossip out there. So, anyway, this concludes part 3 of Dark Week. I guess tomorrow will be part 4, and we'll come to our daring conclusion. But I just think this is a really good call out to anyone who wants to shift their game up, to flip it on its head. There's a lot of chances to do it right now, but I don't know if those chances will stay very long. So really think about where your game is going and think about, am I here to win? Am I playing my best game? Because I tried. I tried to play my best game, so now, uh, yeah. Auf Wiedersehen. I'm not German. Namaste. I'm not that either.